Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the wake up call with myself and Alex. How's everyone feeling out of 10? We got the Patriots gear rocking there.
Patriots are in the Super Bowl. It's been too long. I have two kids who have never experienced a Patriots Super Bowl in their lives.
Wow.
So I'm a 10 out of 10.
I've never experienced a Brown Super Bowl in my life. So,
Yeah,
uh,
they won a bunch in the 50s.
yeah, 50s and 60s. This was our
Yeah.
era, baby. Second most championships in the NFL history.
That's right.
Um, all right, Alex. What are we cooked or what's happening here?
Oh, we are so cooked. Somebody asked me on my live stream yesterday if we were cooked, and I was like, well, if you need to make life-changing gains within the next month or two, then not only are you cooked, it's like the steak, even on the inside, is black as char. Uh, but otherwise, no, we are not cooked. And all right, Devin and I, we've been probably like 90% aligned as to where the market was going to go. And his perspective was a perspective I was open to. My perspective was this perspective that Yaboyskey has always been open to. And it's easy right now to be like, oh yeah, obviously we're going to get this spring. With Bitcoin going down to $81,000 yesterday, the big thing that I let's just take this one day at a time. The big thing that I am paying attention to, the level that I've talked about as the level of support that I would like to see Bitcoin hold, is this 100-week EMA for this projection of the yellow that you see on this chart to play itself out, which would be a move up, a bull trap, big bull trap up to the 200-day moving average, a rejection there, and then a spring. But if we lose this weekly candle, if we lose the 100-week EMA, which I was talking with Devin before, for Devin, it's the 100-week SMA. They're pretty close together. But if we lose that candle, I am expecting that the spring is coming, which is a move down to the 70s, perhaps a move down to the 200-week moving average, which would be by that time in the lower to mid 60s for Bitcoin. I, personally, as somebody who's looking to load back up, I'm sorry, I am praying for a move to the 200-week, but I'm not waiting. I will be buying crypto if and in my opinion, when we do get this spring to happen, which is we see Bitcoin in the 70s, I'm a buyer. And that excites me. I like, I hope you hear. Some of you might be like, oh, that you're such a bear, you're the worst. I don't want to, you want to close your ears and scream la 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 and all that stuff. It's like, guys, what I'm calling for, which isn't really all that much different than what Devin's calling for, is for by far the shallowest bear market in Bitcoin's history. And I've laid out my case for that, based off of the fact that, let me pull up, um, the just the manufacturing, the business cycle. I know Raul Pal is really big on this, but the big thing that I want to point out is, like, look at these peaks in manufacturing. You could see February 26, 2018, at the very tail end of euphoria in 2018 alt season, and then even more so, even more dramatic in 2021, with in March of 2021 was that peak. And then in the previous bear markets, we had to deal with the unwinding of lots and lots of liquidity exiting the system. We don't have to deal with that unwind right now. So I think it's a pretty safe thing for me to say that, yeah, this even, some of you don't even want to call it a bear market. I'm fine with that. If we are in bearish territory, I'm calling it a bear market, and if we're in a downtrend, I'm calling it a bear market. And so we don't have to deal with the unwinding of lots and lots of liquidity exiting the system. In my opinion, I think there's a significant case to be made that the idea that Bitcoin would drop 75 or 80%, that is a very, very unlikely move for Bitcoin here. that it would be, if it did get to the 70s, what would that be? That would be less. That would be 40%. If it got to the 60s, that would be 50%. And we're in the lower 80s right now. That we're not going to suffer all that much if it were to get to those levels. And as far as timing is concerned, I've been consistent saying that it may be second quarter, but here's the deal. If what we saw when Bitcoin got to 98K, if that was the bull trap and we don't have this further bull trap to come, then the bottom might actually be sooner than that. It might be. Another thing I was talking with Devin about before this live stream, it might be in March. Like I know, and that's going to really mess with a lot of people who are expecting Bitcoin to bottom out in the fourth quarter of this year. It might actually be in March. And if so, cool. We're not going to suffer all year like 2022 was just nonstop suffering. And I'm thoroughly convinced by the end of this year that that crypto, we're going to be pretty excited about crypto. And I love the sentiment right now. I love the sentiment of like, crypto.
Wrong again.
No, well, sure, but like what I'm seeing, like there's a stock guy who I follow on X who's kind of gotten into crypto lately, and yesterday he kind of threw in the towel. He's like, man, I just wish crypto would go to zero, and that we would all just focus on stocks. And it's like, all right, this guy who I love his stock analysis, but he doesn't know much about crypto. I hear that from him, and that gets me excited. That gets me, all right, you know what? Throw in the towel, man. And then by the end of this year and into 2027, at least from my perspective, you're going to be kicking yourself. So, all right, it's all good. I hand it to you, Devin.
Yeah. So, me and Alex have been pretty much in lockstep as far as what we think is going to happen. The only difference is Alex thought the more higher probability in Wyckoff was that we were getting the spring variation. I thought that the more high probability that was we were getting the LPS variation. Both are a bottoming structure and both are in phase C, which is the lowest point that you go. The only difference is I was open-minded to a spring where Alex was open-minded to an LPS, but we essentially had the same sort of viewpoint as where we are. Dead wrong. Okay, get this idiot out of here. Hold on. Sorry, guys. So we both pretty much have the same perspective on that regard. The only difference is I had more of a LPS variation is what I thought the higher probability, and I was open-minded to getting I was more open-minded to getting a spring variation, which my target for that is about 75K, where Alex has more of he thinks that we're getting the spring variation and is open-minded to the LPS. Now, with yesterday's flash crash, and I'll just show it to you here real quick, what we're talking about here for everyone at home. Let me get rid of Alex's. So you can see this is the spring variation where you have your selling climax. The secondary test technically goes lower, and then your spring goes lower than the selling climax. The climax of selling is just that. It is the climax of selling. It is the big, scary event. And I do think that November, when we came down to, we came down to 80K, I think that is the selling climax. And I think we've most likely already gotten our secondary test. So that puts us in phase B. And the only variance is there's an LPS in phase C, which is the finality of accumulation, the bottoming structure. And then there is a spring variation in phase C. These are both phase C, which is pretty much the lowest point that you go. So that's really what we're debating right now at this point. And me and Alex are pretty much in lockstep. He has a little bit later of a timeline than I do, and I have a bit of an earlier timeline, but they're pretty much within a month of one another, and neither one of us are time-based analysts anyway, so it doesn't really matter. But you can see we have bullish divergences taking place here on what we're calling is the Wyckoff accumulation. So you can see the same exact structure played out back in April very perfectly. You had your selling climax, high volume, RSI on the daily was extremely low. You are going lower on a downtrend, just like Wyckoff would have you see. You're on a this is a technical downtrend that goes selling climax, secondary test, spring. Go. This is a downtrend, but you have bullish divergences taking place on this. So you have the RSI is going up. This was the April accumulation as the price is going down. Also, the volume is going down. Well, what do we have here? Okay, so I believe that this is the selling climax right here. November to me was the selling climax. Okay, this was extremely oversold. 23, or excuse me, on the Heikinashi candles. This was 13 on the daily RSI. That was lower than what we got in February. That was lower than what we got in August with the Japan rate crash. That was the same level that we got with the 9/11 crash in 2023. That was lower than the FTX collapse. And that was the same level as the Luna collapse. So very, very low, historically low. Prices on the RSI. And then what do we see now? The RSI is now higher and the price is basically the same. Also, the volume. You can see a downtrend on the volume as the price perhaps is going to be on a downtrend. Definitely, this has more violence to this candle, although we haven't technically made a new low just yet. So at this point, I would say that it's more high probability that we're probably going to get the spring variance to 75K. Now, I woke up this morning and I was pretty much willing to throw in the towel and just be like, well, yeah, it looks like we're going to get the spring variance here in
But wait,
Wyckoff.
there's more.
Yeah, I was like, I'm pretty much just ready to throw in the towel. Like, well, I guess it looks like we're going to get the spring variation here. And then I woke up and I saw silver, which we've been talking about is red hot for the longest time, and is extremely overbought and is just absolutely, undeniably, unequivocally parabolic to the craziest degree. And I wake up this morning and it's down 22% in a single day. This is not a meme coin, ladies and gentlemen. So this is a big developing story that is literally different from yesterday than it was today. My first target for silver was $78 and my target 2 was $107 because that's just slightly below the 2618, which I like to be a day early rather than a dollar short on my predictions. So you'll see that a lot when I give my predictions. They typically line up with Fibonacci's and market cap, and they're slightly below that because I want to get out before we go. So you can see this looks like a clear rejection off of the macro. If I put this on the weekly chart here, this is the macro. Let me make sure it's lined up perfectly because sometimes it just moves when I do my analysis, which it has a little bit here. But this is the macro 2618 here. And you can see like we wicked slightly above it on the
Yeah.
weekly chart, but look at that. I mean, that's a perfect nailing of the 2618. We'll see if it's a clean rejection or not. But that looks like a pretty strong rejection. And same thing, you have a bearish divergence taking place. RSI is going down, price is going up. And then we've been talking about this ad nauseum with gold. And gold both is way above my price. It's down 6%. Like this isn't normal for gold to be down 6.5% in a day. That's not normal behavior for gold. It's not a meme coin. But I said this the other day. Someone was asking about silver, which, I've been talking about silver for 5 years on my channel, and like 3 people have asked me the whole time about silver. And now it's 3 people per live streamer asking me about silver. And why in the heck would you be selling your silver? And this, that, and the third. And it's like, if let's pretend that this isn't silver. Let's just pretend that this chart right here is not silver, and instead this is poo poo coin. And you're like, Ski, what do you think about poo poo coin? I would say sell. You need to take profit for the love of God. If you were my brother, I would tell you to take profit. If you were my brethren in Christ, I would say take profit now. But because it's silver and because it's like, well, but it's different with silver, blah, 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 we're just going to be like, yeah, that doesn't matter. But I don't buy that. I don't buy that for $1. I've actually sold 90% of my silver. And I fully know that probably in 2028 it's going to go to 200
Yep.
$250, but I think it's going to come back to 70 or 50 first.
Yep.
And that's where I'm going to be a big buyer of silver again. But I bought silver at $20. Like, that's my average price. I was buying silver for um, a long time. And, I'm pumped that it's up and I'm taking profit. And I'm not your financial advisor, but I suggest doing the same. If you're up on silver, take profit. If you're in profit, you never go broke taking profit. So that's how I really feel about that. Someone was asking me, like, are we in the spring or are we in accumulation? I saw that earlier. I think it was TJ maybe. Um, Let me just go back here. Where was I saw the comment? You don't think we're currently in the spring? I do. I think that we're working in phase C, and I think the higher probability at this point is that it is the spring variation. I think it's slightly more highly probability. But if we close the weekly candle and we reclaim 86, 87,000 by the weekly close, then I would say it would probably shift back a little bit. But, we're here. Like, either way, in my opinion, we're here. And by the end of March, is my prediction, whether it be the LPS or whether it be the spring variance, I think that we're going to start to have our uptrend. And we had an attempt at it, and this is what we were talking about maybe 2 weeks ago. This is the first time that Bitcoin's flipped bullish, and this is what has me a little bit concerned. Like, hey, this is probably our spring here. Is we flip bullish on the moving averages on the 5-hour chart. We came up, we put in a higher high, we put in a higher high. All of the 20 was on top of the 50, was on top of the 100, was on top of the 200. The first time that that's happened since back in April. And then we came below the 200, came up to it, and then got rejected pretty strong. And because that happened, I was like, this feels a little bit more like the spring variation. So either way, I'm still open-minded. I'm not going to sit here and say definitively one way or the other. I will say, even with this micro downtrend here, that we're having, there's a major bullish divergence that's taking place on the 5-hour chart. You can see, which is more powerful. And then in the macro accumulation that's happening, you can see a major bullish divergence, two bullish divergences that are taking place, where the RSI is significantly higher than it was in November, and the volume is significantly lower. So two major bullish divergences on different big time frames are happening. Either way, I think that we're rounding the corner, so to speak. I'm not calling for tomorrow or next week, but I think that, like Alex thinks, this is going to be the shortest and shallowest bear market in history. That is what I think.
Yes. And yes, I am dieting and working out. Thank you, Bonio. I also got a haircut, which most people ask me if I've lost weight when I get a haircut. So there's my commentary, my extra commentary there. What? Go ahead.
Yeah, I've lost a little bit of weight too, but
All right.
no. Someone asked me though. I think this is a good one. Christine or Christian says next 59K or new all-time high. If you put me in a corner, I think a new all-time high.
Yeah,
yes.
Me too.
And I think it'd probably happen by the end of 2026.
Yeah. The only, I mean, if it was 59K, it would have to happen really quickly. I mean, it's just, I'm thinking through, like, all right, the 200 week, I'm sorry. I'm going to say it again. I really, that's just such a no brainer buy level, the 200 week moving average.
Yes.
And it's at 59K right now. So it would have to be terror.
There would have to be some crazy collapse, like Coinbase goes to zero tomorrow. Something like that would have to happen for us to get to 59K, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, I made a video on my YouTube channel about we're in a really interesting position. And I'd be curious to hear your thoughts about this. Where, like, all right, there's certain coins that actually, they did well in 2024 and 2025. XRP, Solana, um, and those two stick out to me the most because like they're at like super important levels right now. That if they lose those levels, they could go down a lot from where they are right now. Like so, XRP bounced got it just it bounced off of its what is that, the point 0.5 retrace from its from its all-time chart basically. And but then below that there's very little support, there's very little liquidity built up, that I could see XRP going a lot lower, and Solana. And David on X or on TikTok says the two I shorted, XRP and Solana. I am in right now XRP and Solana shorts. I've been in them for a bit. When everything pumped a couple, what was it, last week or a couple weeks ago. And so those there's certain cryptos. I just have different categories of cryptos, and the four categories that I gave there's two categories that I'm not interested in touching right now, which is an XRP or Solana type crypto, because of the potential of, if they lose that floor, things could go down really hard, and then I'll buy aggressively both of those. The other category is what I'm calling a floorless crypto, which is just, a lot of those cryptos with terrible tokenomics that were created between 2022 and 2024 or 2025, and just don't seem to have a floor in place, because they just keep on going down and down, and they're below any levels of support. I don't want to touch either of those. But then there's other cryptos that I'm okay touching. Category 3 is the cryptos that just look accumulative. They just, yeah. And I'm perfectly fine buying those. And then other ones are crypto. Category 4 is cryptos that just don't seem to really care if we're in a bull market or bear market. Most notably, I mean, quant is, I would kind of label that as accumulative. But I'm thinking like Bitcoin Cash, Monero, which I'm not particularly excited about buying Monero right now, because it already broke out of a multi-year long accumulation. And then something like what is it, Tron, and maybe Binance. So
yeah, I'm most interested in category 3, and I pretty much disregard what was it, category 2 is the bad tokenomics. Like, I don't ever really have interest in buying those.
Yeah.
But I will say too, like, my theory on, as far as the altcoins specifically, is if we're going to frame it into category 3 and category 4, which is really the only ones that I'm interested in. If we frame it into category 3, category 4, my theory on the altcoins is something that I've been talking about at nauseum, which goes back to the Russell, which goes back to Bitcoin went into price discovery, but we haven't really had a bull market from the altcoins. Like, the altcoins, in my opinion, a lot of them have been in a bear market the entire time.
Chainlink's a perfect one. That's like my favorite accumulative crypto.
Right. Like, this has been in a bear market, quote, like, the entire time, in my opinion.
Yeah.
And like, this has the same, well, I think it was last week, maybe. Yeah, here we go. So, like, here's silver set up here. So this is the 3-day chart from 2011 on silver all the way until the breakout. And, I think Chainlink has a bit more variance at the SOS because it's not a 1,000-year commodity like silver is. However, to me, structurally, this is the same spot here, where this is your accumulation, your sign of strength, and then you're chopping. And now, it's important to note, like, this is the 3-day chart. So, maybe we're here for 6 more months or however long it might be. I don't know when we're going to go into the next phase, but I think category 3 coins that you're speaking of have just been an accumulation the whole time, and they haven't went into price discovery. And a lot of the reason for that, to me, is because the Russell hasn't went into price discovery. And I think that, people, we get so caught up in 4-year cycle that we really don't take note of, like, what's actually happening or what has actually happened in 2017 and 2021. And, I think, whether it be today, like it looks like, hey, today might be a good candidate because silver's down 22% in the last 24 hours. But whether it be today, next week, next month, I don't know the answer to the time question. But I know the answer to the rotation question, and it goes gold tops, the Russell breaks out into price discovery, and it seems like we're flirting with those things happening. And then when it goes into the price discovery distribution, the distribution from one asset to another is when that's when you get liquidity flows from the distribution of one asset to the another. And we've done this 1,000 times, but when gold topped, crypto was bear market lows. When the Russell made a new all-time high, crypto was also bear market lows. It wasn't until it got to the buying climax or the beginning of distribution when things really started to heat up. So I think that we're somewhere in this neck of the woods here with the Russell, and we're starting to continue to top out, and we'll see what that leads and how long that takes. Maybe it's into where everyone thinks that the bottom is going to be is when things actually get red hot, which maybe is October or something like that.
Yeah. No further comment on that. I mean, aside, like it does look like very similar. It's just it's so hard. It's even hard for me. Even though I've just been nonstop banging this drum of like, no, not don't pay attention this time around to the 4-year cycle. It's going to be different. It's hard for me to actually picture the fourth quarter of this year or 2027 being those that period. But with removing past history, just looking at the charts, that's the best case you can make. It's the most logical argument to make. Somebody says, yeah, but gold at all-time high this time. Yes, that's a good point. We've seen moments like this before.
Right. So gold was at an all-time high in August of 2020, while the Russell was near all-time highs, right? So that's the case that I'm making is they're kind of in. So you go phase 1, phase 2, phase 3. They're transitioning, in my opinion, from phase 1 to phase 2. And that's what I'm saying. I don't know if it's today, tomorrow, next week, next month, but I think that we're in the end of the transition from phase 1, which is the peak of gold. That is the argument that I'm making. And I don't know what that looks like. Someone said, where do you sell silver to and what price near spot? It's hard to get. That's the interesting thing is like, I wasn't having an issue buying or selling silver near spot when we weren't absolutely parabolic. But, even my guy who I have a good relationship with, like he's giving me like $7 off spot, which is, insane. So, I mean, that's they got to make their money too. And it is interesting. It's interesting to me that, he doesn't want to buy it near the spot value, even though, for all these years, it's been fine that way. And he said, from his mouth, like I asked him, just, this is anecdotal evidence for sure. But I asked, like, are more people buying or more people selling? And he said more people are buying.
Wow. That's insane. I mean, it's not, but it is.
Right.
Yeah. I'll just, one thing I'll add. I mean, I was a silver nut in 2011. I was crazy about silver, and everything about right now reminds me of 2011 when silver peaked at $50, and just the level of excitement that I was feeling at that time. It was like, silver's never going down. There was a comment on my live stream a couple days ago saying that, what this one guy saying silver's going, their dips are going to be minimal until it gets to $2,000. And I was like, you are out of your mind. But I remember that's what my mindset was in 2011. I was like, silver's going to $1,000 and in 2011 or maybe 2012, so here we are again.
Crypto Grillin says appreciate the hypothesis, but I disagree. Last time the Russell topped Um, okay, so the Russell hasn't went into price discovery. That's the one thing that hasn't happened, like definitively. That's not like a agree or disagree. That's like it definitively has not went to price discovery into the 1618. That happened in I can show my chart. We're live on YouTube and X right now showing our charts, but definitively in 20 so what happened was in August of 20 gold tops, November of 20 the Russell was made its first all-time high, and if you look at where the total 3 is in November, August and November of 20, you can see that they were bear market lows. They were absolutely putridly dead. And it wasn't until the buying climax, aka price discovery, when it was at the 1618, that anything happened, but it still wasn't even going crazy at that time. Like it was just heating up a bit. And not only was it correlated, and I'm going to show the total 3 right here. Not only was it correlated to the price action, it is the entire run. And I'm going to show it if you want to pop on YouTube and see our charts here. Not only, again, was it correlated to the price action, but I have 3 dates circled. And I've done this 100 times, but we'll do it again. The one thing that has not happened that happened in 2021 was the Russell has went into price discovery and distribution. That has not taken place this time around. But you can see the first time all-time high in November. I'm pointing at November of 2020. Bear market lows for the total 3, putridly dead. Buying climax, the top of the Russell, the first time it gets to that top level, there was a 2x out of the total 3, but nothing substantial. But from the buying climax to the UTAD, the distribution of the Russell from one asset to another, not only was it correlated, that was the entire run of the altcoins. Like the tippity dippity top of the UTAD of the distribution of the Russell was the tippity dippity top of the UTAD of the total 3. Like not only is it correlated, it was the entire run. And that definitively is the one thing that is different this time around that has not taken place yet. And it doesn't necessarily mean that it will take place. I make an argument that it probably will. I think that the higher probability is it will because we're making new all-time highs as of recently. But that is definitively the one thing that is different this time that has not taken place, that took place in 2017 and took place in 2021, that definitively has not happened this time around.
Yeah, I mean that the fractal is a very compelling the fractal that you have there is quite compelling. And until we deviate from that, I mean that's just going to be my mindset that that's what happens.
Right. And again, like even if so this is the buying climax here, like we still have a ways to go before, and I just showed it on the total 3. There wasn't anything substantial that happened from the price discovery run to the buying climax. There wasn't anything crazy that happened. It was until this part that's when the substantial things started taking place.
Yeah.
Someone says, do you think we still test 100K? Price discovery is what again? Price discovery is like when you're nearing the 1618 Fibonacci. It's not a all-time high or a wick to an all-time high. It's a definitive next leg higher. That's what price discovery is. Not a so the example, the all-time high in 2021 was 242. Or 244. So none of this has been price discovery, just like in 2024 when Bitcoin was at 74K, where 2021 the all-time high was 69K. When Bitcoin goes to 74K before the Japan rate cut fiasco, that wasn't price discovery. That was a double top test. And we sat there and accumulated for a good minute before we actually went into price discovery, which was, more towards the elections of November. So the Russell's all-time high currently. Yes, currently. That's what I'm saying. It's at all-time high. It hasn't officially, I think it has confirmed this last leg into 271. That was the confirmation, like, hey, I think that we're following this fractal into price discovery, but we haven't been into price discovery before that moment. That hasn't happened yet. Do you still think we test 100K? If we're getting the spring variation of accumulation, no, not first. No, the spring would be first. So we'll see how this is going to be a big weekly close, in my opinion. Whether like, is this the LPS or is this the spring variation? If we don't
Yeah.
clear 87, 86K by the weekly close, we're probably going to get the spring relatively soon.
Yeah. Yeah, that's same deal. That's exactly where I started out saying that when I opened with my charts, and it looks, you, anything can happen within hours with Bitcoin. We could get to 86K today. It is, in my opinion, it seems more likely to me that we are going to lose those levels that we're highlighting, and so okay, you know what? Um, I think I've been saying I think the mid 70s is inevitable for Bitcoin, and that's a place that I will be very interested in buying Bitcoin and longing Bitcoin, and so yeah. Let me just answer one question real quick. VeChain is accumulative. That's category 3.
Category 3. That's a hard 3 for me
Oh
too.
yeah, yeah.
What are the chances we don't get a spring and continue to the downside the next couple of months? I'm going to say none, because anything is possible, but
Yeah, there's always a chance.
0.01%.
All right, I'm willing to go higher, but only higher percentage wise, but only based off of what we've seen in previous cycles. Like everything that we're showing you, that doesn't make sense.
Right.
But anything can happen, you know. Anything can happen, and but I really am quite convinced, you know, the masses are expecting just a typical bear market where you know, Bitcoin's going to go down 75%, and it it's it doesn't make sense from many variables.
He said Gigatron says 72 to 74 is my target. Worst case is 62. I'm not mad at that. That's pretty in line with my spring target. LPS target would say, so I have basically 3 yeah, or I have 2 targets basically. One is, are we getting the LPS variance? And that would mean that the bottom is already in at 80K. And then the variance number 2 would be a spring variance, and I have a 75 target, but I'm open-minded to 70K. That would be a typical bear market behavior where you back test the prior all-time high. And then you just look at it practically too, of, you know, there's 180 days of support from March of 24 through September of 24 being around that 60-70K range. And then also you have, you know, 180 days of support over here as well. So there's a lot of support to catch you around that 70K range. So can you wick into it? Sure. Do I think it's likely? Also, there's this support here from April,
Yeah.
because technically we're still on top of that as well. So can you wick into it? Yeah, sure. But do I think it's likely that you go much deeper than that? I don't. I think that that's a fine target. My issue is ski looking rip, bro. I'm still a little. I'm in my bear bod mode. You know, it's like a dad bod, but it's slightly more sexy. You know, it's like he works out, he lifts, but he also likes pizza. So that's where I'm at. I'm gonna like be aggressive about my cutting once I bench 405. That's my like lifetime goal, and I'm pretty close. So I'm a little bit more calories right now, but I hit 375 the other day, so I'm trying to get to the 405 mark, and then once I do that, I'm like, okay, we're good on doing that.
Yeah, so. And here I am slacking at 255, but you know, I threw that up pretty easily yesterday. I'll get there.
No, that's good.
Yeah.
Most people can't even bench their body weight, so
Yeah.
You know, I think it's only like 1% of the world can even bench 225.
Yep.
So yeah, so I'm trying to get that. I'm trying to hit that 405, and then I'll start aggressively shedding the weight. I'm a little fluffy right now. I'm probably a solid 20 pounds overweight right now, but I got some meat on the bones. Um, would you DCA now?
We probably have different answers for that. Um, I'll just say for me, uh, my answer is no. And the reason why is my resources are limited, and there are several things that I think are much better investments at this moment than crypto. And maybe that will come back to bite me in the rear. But for me, I'd rather be buying Bitcoin miners right now because of things that I've talked about with they now have a second source of revenue with this AI data boom. So there's that. There's uranium is next with metals and copper. Those two I'm really big on, and so that's where I'm focusing my money. But then when Bitcoin and if and when Bitcoin gets to 70s, that's when I'll start DCAing.
I think it depends. It's case by case. It doesn't. There's not a one size all fits cookie cutter answer. If you're a long term investor and you're being in the market for 3, 5, 10 years, if you need your money in the next 3 or 5 months, I would say no. If you're a long term investor, I think Bitcoin is fine. Like, we're talking maybe 70K. So when we look back, 7, 8 years from now, what the hell is the difference between 83K and 70K? I
Yeah,
don't think it's going to matter at all. Like, for instance, last bear market, it would be like the difference of buying, in my opinion, 16K or 20K. Like, where what happens a lot, what I see a lot is people greed shows up both ways. It shows up at the
yeah,
top where you think it's going to go higher, and it shows up at the bottom where people start getting in this thing of like they're not really fearful anymore of lower prices. They actually expect it, and they're waiting for this certain hypothetical number. And then that's when they're going to go all in. And so I think that greed shows up both ways. And I think for regular people, Bitcoin, um, I think that this is a good price to DCA. Um, if your thesis is 5 3 5 years, then I think it's a good price. If it's not, then I think no, it's not. For the altcoins, category 3, maybe,
yeah.
um, but outside of that, probably not. But
I mean, you made a good point. So my mother bought Bitcoin in the last bear market, and she already sold it. But she had me buy it for her, and the average price entry was 22K or something like that.
not
And
much.
yeah, and so it went down. It went down to 16K, and she didn't need the money, she was fine, and then it went up, and she sold it. She sold a little too early. She sold around 60, 70K, but it's all good. A small 3x. She did way better than a lot of people in 2024, 2025. So
Yeah, especially with Bitcoin, you just need to be in the right flavor. You don't got to time it up. People are get so fixated, in my opinion, and I think it's different. Like the advice would be different for Alex, because Alex does this full time, or the advice would be
yeah,
different for
sure.
Ski. But I'm just thinking through the lens of just your average Joe. I think that DCing into Bitcoin, if you're just in the right flavor, I think that you're going to be profitable, just like Alex's mom was profitable just by being in the right flavor. She didn't sell the absolute top. She didn't buy the absolute bottom, but she still 3 extra money, which is insane. Like you're not going to do that in the stock market.
Yeah.
Like how long did it take you to 3x on silver? 50 years?
I still haven't 3x. It's been 15 years.
Yeah. So, and I love silver. Silver is one of my favorites, but
Yeah.
My brother buys 100 a week every week. That's what I'm telling
Fine.
him. Okay, so here's a good example. My brother is 18 years old, and I am he's living with me, and I'm like mentoring him, and I'm coaching him. I'm helping him build his credit. I'm teaching him about business, and we're talking about opening up some car washes, and I'm trying to just set him up and give him guidance and give him like a sort of stepping stone opportunity that I didn't have when I was his age, because I was just like I was 18 and it was just like, okay, go figure it out. And,
Yeah.
I didn't have any support like that. So I'm trying to establish him to where he's going to be set up for life. Right. And so he does like DoorDash and stuff like that on the side too. And so what I'm telling him is like, he doesn't have any bills at all. And I'm like, listen, dude, you're 18 years old and you're telling me like one day, um, if you ask me like 10 years from now, do I think that Bitcoin's going to be $1 million per coin? Yes, I do. Like $28. So basically, essentially, like a 10-year plan for him is like every $100 you invest is going to be $1,000 plus to your future self. And I was just like, man, listen, like you can easily make 500 bucks a week kind of at a chill speed doing DoorDash, and you can live off of like $200 a month because you don't have any bills. Like I buy all of his food.
Mm,
It's like he doesn't have any food or nothing. I'm like, if you invest, like $1,500 a month, like if you do that for a year, you're just going to be set up for life. So in that regard, I think that there's just something to the simplicity of not being a TA nerd like me and Alex, and getting really in the weeds. And I think that there's an average Joe stance that could really pay dividends. And that's sort of the one that I have for my brother, where I'm not really teaching him the nuances of everything. Just like, hey man, like buy some Bitcoin and just forget about it.
sure. Yeah, that sounds fine. Um, do you have do you have room for a family of 9 in your home that could get the brother treatment or
Maybe on the farm, not at this
all right,
house.
all right.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
So we should be moving. So like doing my taxes. So it's a big thing. I've told you about this, and you've said that there's kind of loopholes. But essentially, like I was in the army, so I had W-2 income, and now I've been
Mhm.
self-employed for 2 years. So this will be my second tax return where I can qualify. So that's
Yeah.
where we're at. So
Let me how do you calculate potential price targets for the spring? You look for levels of support. Because like there's just certain times that I see a crypto as red, I want to buy it because I think it's oversold, and I look at the levels and I'm like, it's got to come down to this level. This is where traders are looking to get in, or swing traders, or people wanting to buy in a large. This is the level that they are waiting to get, and when it gets there, they will get it. That happened yesterday for me with Ethereum. Ethereum 2717 is a level that I marked out, and I entered along, even though I'm mostly in shorts. I entered along, and maybe it's just going to be for a scalp, but that was a high probability play for me. Bitcoin, there's a level in the mid 70s that I just think is a good level if it gets there.
yeah.
So,
Eli says, tax return, I have to pay full. No, I have to pay taxes for sure. It's just,
oh yeah,
I'm just saying that. But this is my second tax season where I have filed my taxes as being self employed. Um, Someone says, do you think if the spring variation happens, it will be quick? Relatively, yes. Like it's not going to be okay, 1 hour, and then now we're out of there. It's not going to be
yeah.
like that. But just to give you a couple examples, um, when we lost the level in April, April 3rd, we lost the level. We wicked down to 74K, and then we reclaimed the same level by the 15th. Okay, so that was so maybe a couple of weeks. The C19 was like 30 days. That was a clear spring that happened. When you have like the level is basically February 28th 2020, you lose that level. This is a spring, you reclaim it by May 1st. So this was a clear spring that took place. That was, about a month. So that's pretty much like, an average, I would say, is about a month or so. So it is relatively quick in crypto. I know that a month is not really quick when you think about it, but in the grand scheme of things, it's a very, very short amount of time. So that's, typically what history would say is like between a week and maybe 45 days is like how long a spring would actually take itself to play out.
Yeah, I mean, we do have. I'm just looking at your chart right now. Post FTX collapse. I mean, it was 50 days or so of chopping. Between what, 16 and $18,000
Right.
until it broke out. Maybe that would be the longest period of time, or maybe what I would suspect would happen is that it would be a quick bounce and then a chop
Yeah.
for a bit.
Right. That's what happened with the C19. That's what happened with April crash. We weren't chilling at 74K. Like
Yeah, that was
we
quick.
weren't right. It was very, very quick. So the violence of, I guess, what if you're asking like how long until we reverse, that's probably, 60 days is kind of the longest we're finding. 64 days is the longest that we're finding. But as far as like reclaiming the level that you lost, that's a little bit less time. So like even so we were at 83K and we violently went down to 74K and then reclaimed 83K within a week. So that
Yeah.
was in April. So if you're asking like, the answer is different. It's like when you reclaim the level that you were already at versus like when do you reverse. So yeah, a week to 65 days is the average.
Yeah. I just I mean, we might be of different opinion on this. I'm not expecting, after whatever the bottom looks like, I'm not expecting fireworks right away. I'm
Mm.
expecting disbelief, basically. I'm expecting
A disbelief rally, like a sign of strength, I think. Yeah.
just a grind higher,
Yeah.
like, yeah, but
Yeah. That's what I expect as well. I don't think it's going to be like off to Neverland. Although it could be. Maybe we get a
sure.
C19 spring. I'm not going to count it out, but I would expect more of a. I mean, if you just, think about what happened with FTX, like this was the bear market spring where the
Yeah.
selling climax, and then you have your spring here, and then it's just kind of grueling higher lows and higher highs from there. So yeah, that's kind of how it goes. And a good thing that happened too, like that you kind of confirmed this as a spring is like, hey, you take back the 200 daily. The 200 daily is massive. And then you can kind of just see we
Mhm.
pretty much held it from then on out. Like we never lost it until now. So that's going to be a big level to reclaim is going to be the 200 daily, to say like, hey, that was it.
Yeah. Yeah, that's huge for me. I mean, I remember so well that rejection in 2022, being so hopeful at the 200 day. It just got rejected right there. So we break on the other side of that. It's like that's probably, so I mean, I am thinking through my strategy. I am okay. I'll be definitely buying a lot if and when we get this spring, but I'm okay with waiting and buying some. And this is just my strategy. I'm not a DCAer, you know, but waiting until the other side of that 200 day and then going pretty heavy. So
Let me say something real quick too. I think that obviously like Alex's strategy, um, ROI wise is the best strategy, honestly. However, the reason that I am against it for most people is because I genuinely believe that most people have not done the emotional intelligence work that is required in order
yeah.
to plan out what you're going to do at what levels and then actually follow through with your plan. And so I just think like if you haven't done the emotional work and it's a grind. It's not like, you have to really almost be a sociopath, or you have to be healed. You have to be a healed person to really be able to deal with the swings violently, have a plan, kind of sniper in when you're going to go. And I just think that objectively 99% of people have not done that work required. So that's like my prescription for most people is like, just find a good level and DCA at that level, because I just
Yeah.
think that people are just way too emotional, and then they'll always will move the goalposts. Like, we're going to wait for this price. And so listen, I'm not prescribing for Alex, or I'm not saying that it can't be done or anything like that, or even for myself. I just look at it objectively through the average Joe, and I think the average Joe is not emotionally intelligent enough to um, sniper entries like that.
Yes. Or just to be a little more pragmatic, doesn't, you don't have the time.
Right.
Um,
That's true.
yeah. So yeah, I don't know. I don't know where I was gonna what I was gonna say. Um, I might be a sociopath. Uh, Either that, or I'm just a glutton for punishment. So,
Yeah.
well, I mean, like 2025 was my worst performance.
Same.
Yeah, and but like, when did I sell? I sold on October 17th. That's when I like, so, I don't think I got a lot of heat for that, but I mean, I sold 11 days after Bitcoin peaked, and that was my worst selling.
Mm.
I sold closer to the peak in 2024 at both the beginning, in March of 2024 and in December of 2024. So like, if you're able to just let go, which it's hard to sell, man. It's hard to sell when things are down. It's hard to sell when things are up. I just, I'm so not married to any idea, but
And on the flip side of that too, it's the same thing. 2025 ROI wise was bad. When you take out silver, I guess silver ran into
yeah,
2026 because silver has been a big, not really now because I've sold 90% of it, but silver was a huge part of my portfolio for sure. And it was kind of propping everything up. But when you factor that in, like, um, I have more just kind of held through. And my average price, I did most of the front end work in 2022.
yeah,
And I was Alex and I were super bullish back in 2022, November, December. Both of us were bullish publicly back in that time. And so did I like buy the bottom? I mean, maybe, yeah, because I was DCAing around that time. But my average price was probably around the last bear market for Bitcoin was probably 20,000, 22,000, and then XRP was in the 30 cents.
yeah,
So it's like, am I down? Sure. It's down from 126. Yeah, sure. But like, am I actually down? No, I'm not. Like, I'm still significantly outperforming the stock market. So yeah.
yeah, yeah. Something that I thought of in terms of like, if I were to DCA, when would I do it? And my mentality, let's just say for Bitcoin, is like, worst case scenario. Let's just say the worst case scenario for the next time Bitcoin goes up. Let's say the worst case scenario is that Bitcoin does not hit a new all-time high. Where I buy, will I still see a really solid return if I sell close to that not new all-time high level? I'm okay DCAing at that level,
Mm.
which for me is, you might as well say the 80s. I like the 70s more. I like the 60s a lot more. I mean, I could go on,
Yeah.
but at some point, and I'm thinking through this because somebody reached out to me and asked for more specific, like he paid, and he wants to give me a percentage of his returns. And so I'm thinking through for him what the game plan is going to be. And it's like I want to buy at prices where it's like very little doubt that as if you hold, you're going to make a good return, which is a lot of those category 3 cryptos that we talked about from earlier, a large
Yeah.
majority of them,
Yeah.
and Bitcoin.
It's a risk to reward.
Yeah.
Really is what he's kind of saying.
Yeah.
Risk to reward ratio. Like, what's the risk of holding from 22K to 16K, essentially? And then what's the ROI, number from that? Which is essentially what your mom did, where she
Yeah.
it didn't go into price discovery, but she still 3x.
Yeah.
So, personally think 50K. That's fine. I'll shave my head if we go to 50K. I don't think we're going to go to 50K. I think it's possible, sure, like on a wick, but I don't think we're going to be hanging out there.
I'll start donating plasma if we go to 50K. I'll break up every dime I can get.
For sure. Yeah, I'll be selling my truck, and I'll be selling anything. Yeah. I don't think we're going to I think the worst probable is like 65. Like, that's absolute like nightmare. Something catastrophic has happened. But I don't think that we're going to 50K because too many people are calling for it. 50K and 30K are like the most what I'm seeing. But then I think about it too, just practically like 30K. Like, here, let's work through 30K here for a second, just from a practical level. Okay, so when was the last time Bitcoin was at 30K?
There it is, 2023.
2023. Okay, so like, what was different about Bitcoin today than it is 2023? So like, there's a few things that are different with the last time, 2023. Number one, the inflation was double what it is today.
You're talking about mining?
Yeah, like with the inflation on Bitcoin is double what it is today. There was no BlackRock. There was no Texas Strategic Reserve, Arizona Strategic Reserve. There was no countries buying Bitcoin. There was no 401k buying Bitcoin with BlackRock, Fidelity, Vanguard. There wasn't any ETFs. None of that stuff exists, and the inflation was double. And even so, when you factor all those things in, like, what did it take to get us below 30K? FTX had just went to zero. Luna went to zero. Voyager went to zero. BlockFi had went to zero. Everything possible that could go wrong went wrong. The inflation was double. There was no institutional buying power. There was no the miners are more profitable now because they have ways to offset their costs. And so, just from a practical non-TA perspective, is it possible? Sure. But like, anything is possible. Like, I could learn to fly, like, sure, I guess. But I don't think that it's in the realm of reality of like what is reasonably possible. Like, could a meteor strike and tomorrow? Yeah, that's possible. But like, is it reasonable to assume? I don't think so.
Yeah.
Are things going to heat back up in 2026?
Yes.
I agree.
New here. What is a category 3 crypto? It's just cryptos that are just in clear accumulation. They're not like just bleeding to death, and they're not. Yeah.
They've been accumulating basically since 2022.
Yeah.
Normally drops 80%. Why different this time? That's not true. You could say that the average drop is 80%, but in reality, the first drop was 99.9%. The second time was 99%. The third time was 95%. The fourth time was 85%, and last time was 74%. So that's just a law of averages of diminishing returns. As Bitcoin becomes more and more accepted, it becomes less and less volatile. So yeah, no, like, the average is not the normal is not 80%. The average is 80%, but each time has been less than the last.
I'm about ready. How are you guys feeling about Caspa? Caspa is category 3 accumulative. That's a really good one. So
I think gold will rotate into crypto in a couple months. I agree. I don't know if it's going to be a couple months or couple weeks, but I think that the bigger thing, like macro, that is happening is where does liquidity come from? It comes from the rotation of one asset to another. Now, it doesn't necessarily mean like people who bought gold now they're going to go buy Bitcoin. But what
yeah.
it does mean is people who bought gold might buy the Dow Jones or things in the Russell, and then people who profit from that are going to rotate into crypto. So yes, I agree with that sentiment. I don't know if the timeline, but I don't really care. But I think that that is the next logical thing. All right, Alex, what do you have for the people?
For the people, I will let Ski handle our typical going out message. Let me just say this: the New England Patriots are in the Super Bowl, and yeah, I'm happy, but you know, it's just not the same without Tom Brady. I miss Tom Brady.
Yeah.
I want Tom Brady to be their quarterback and to lead them to another Super Bowl. But
I
I'll be happy if the Patriots win. So I know I'm being a total ass right now. I am doing that on purpose.
Oh man, I just want a quarterback, man. I'm tired. I'm tired of going to Goodwill for a quarterback, Cleveland Browns. I'm tired of it. There's this perspective. Go ahead.
Let me answer. Can you give me some hopium for Solnick? Did you know that you can buy Solnick and Hee on Coinbase now? Like actual Coinbase.
Actual Coinbase. I just did it yesterday.
Yeah.
It's crazy. Amazing. People said it couldn't be done.
Yeah, we did it.
We did it.
We did it.
No, like that's a big deal, honestly.
Yeah.
Like, you know, when things heat up, and you know, I think relatively, you know, both of us have held up pretty good with the you know, downtrend, but like that is such a barrier to entry.
Yeah.
Especially, you know, when our live streams are getting 1,000 people again, you know, per so yeah, like that's a big deal. That's a massive deal. The chart looks really good. We've been accumulating since November. We put in higher highs and higher lows the whole time. So yeah, like the chart looks good. We're still doing really cool things. And I'm still driving forward. We are the lone survivors, Alex. You know, all of our peers during the same time, like we're the lone survivors.
I'm shocked.
I'm not.
Yeah, I mean, I was being sarcastic, but okay.
Yeah. So the Browns, last thing, because we gotta get it off my chest.
Yeah.
There's this perspective about the Cleveland Browns that they just pick a top 5 quarterback every year. It's not true. We've done it twice in my life. We took Tim Couch and we took Baker. That was it. Everybody else, they try to get in the second, third round. Let's take a flyer on Kenny Pickett. Jake Delhomme, let's kick the tires on that. Stop shopping at Goodwill for a quarterback. It's a premium position. All right, that's it.
If it makes you feel any better, I'm about to take the Browns to the Super Bowl myself. So
all right, guys. I appreciate each and every one of you guys. We'll be live probably next week unless we have something, but
yeah,
every Friday we do this show. So make sure you guys like, subscribe, follow us on TikTok, YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, Twitch. We will never message you first. Those are scammers. For the love of God, do not redeem.